Hi, I'm Tommy.
Hi, I'm Nemanja. Welcome to Cloud Couch.
It's where we discuss cloud topics from a couch perspective.
Not so comfortable couch.
All right, welcome back. So this is now our second episode. It's going to be around cloud journeys, and it's especially going to be for enterprise and let's say established companies who already have existing IT landscapes and IT systems. Usually it's on-premise and let's say legacy systems in general. And Nemanja has a lot of experience from this, 4 years at AWS. And we would like to basically open up this very big topic actually, but put some structure to it and make it digestible and easy to follow based on some different pieces that needs to be considered, adding our basically experience from different projects, from previous topics in IT, but also from greenfield and startup. But it's really about the journey for the enterprises and existing companies that want to go into the cloud. So
exactly.
Basically, this big topic, how do you start? How do you usually go about that? Where's the starting point?
Usually you run away from it.
Yes. Let's put it like this. Let's say I'm a CEO or business owner of one of these companies, and I come to you. Hey, Nemanja.
Yeah.
I realize cloud is a big thing. Everybody talks about it. Mm-hmm. I actually realize already we should even become a tech company or much more oriented around tech.
Yeah.
And we should be most likely in cloud. I would like you to help me. Where do we start?
Good. So when we talk about cloud journey as such, we need to look at it from two different perspectives. So one is a non-technical lens and the other one is a technical lens. Most of the problems when we talk about cloud journeys are actually non-technical. And it is very important to acknowledge that, and it's very important to understand that there are changes that need to happen before you start tackling technical issues. So what are those? Let's mention a few. Corporate culture and the values that you have inside your organization. That is first thing that needs to change. So moving to the cloud is a change of the mindset, right? It is where you introduce a lot more agility, a lot more transparency. It's a different way of working than what you used to in the previous many years and decades of working with IT. And this is the way where suddenly your teams are getting much more responsibility when they're in cloud versus when they were in the, let's say, silos when working with on-premise infrastructures. The second thing is leadership development. That's how I call it, like leadership development. If you don't have C-level support for your cloud journey, you can almost forget about it, right? There will always be a little science project done by some enthusiast from a shadow IT department that will spin up something on the cloud, show how it is great, and it will not move anywhere unless you have a C-level support. And how do you get it? You get it by educating them and showing them the benefits of the cloud. Like in the previous episode, when we discussed why cloud, these are the things that C-level executives need to understand, need to adopt, need to put in the strategy and in motion in order for get on the successful cloud journey path.
So basically I watched the video. So as the CEO now, and it made a lot of sense, and I understand that it's about transforming my company across the board. And obviously I don't know exactly how to do it. I know cloud is very much there, and I know it's about this business agility, and I don't know exactly what that really means. I just know that it's a big change throughout the whole organization, and it's very much tech driven on top of cloud. So that's obviously the things I want to understand more about from your perspective now, looking at your definitely your 4 years at AWS and different companies across industries and how they usually do that.
Yeah, and the thing is, you need to give like upper hand to senior management when the cloud journey begins. It's like it's a new technology for everybody, right? And usually business and executives and technical folks, they don't speak the same language. When it gets to the cloud topics, then this separation is even bigger. And if there is not understanding of where the things are going, this is where that creates problems. What I've seen is that on this cloud migration or cloud journey path, there is something that I like to call like a stuck zone. So it is when you start, but you don't really transform the way you should. You don't apply these things that we are talking about now. You will go halfway there. You will migrate some of the projects and applications to the cloud, but it will not gonna be the organization wide. You're not gonna go 100% all in. Even if you want to do that, you're going to be stuck because some of these things you haven't done all the way through.
Yeah.
So we talked about culture, values, corporate values and culture. We talked about development of leadership. We need to talk about also operating model. So operating model needs to change. Like if the organizations are in the waterfall methodology, silos with walls between,
long cycles.
You do your piece of work, you throw it over the wall, somebody catches it, throws it again.
There's no shared ownership, basically.
No, that needs to change. Why? Because the responsibility in the cloud is different. Now, if you're on premise and you are application developer, you're developing just a source code with a very limited impact into anything else. You have a separate infrastructure team that is putting wires and cables into routers, switchers, servers, and so on. Application developers do not have impact into that. And then you have a separate procurement team that is then buying different licenses and controls the spend and all that. In the cloud, all of these functions are together. You are within one team, call it DevOps team or whatever buzzword you want to use.
Yeah, another buzzword is agile team, right?
So, or agile team, yes. The thing is, you're giving much more responsibility to this team because they can impact your infrastructure. In the cloud, the whole infrastructure is software based. They can impact your finances. If they do something wrong, your bill is going to Skype and go through the roof. So they have direct impact into that. So there is much more responsibility and ownership in this kind of environment. So your team also needs to restructure and needs to change the operating model. So to be a true end-to-end skilled team that owns the cloud.
And different pieces, right? So you're taking the whole thing and you're making it into small pieces. So maybe an analogy would be your battleship that you have, your business becomes these small attack boats. Maybe that's a good one.
Exactly. Yeah, you can turn much quickly.
Yes.
You can make much more damage like that.
Yes.
But you get to your goal much faster. Right.
Yeah.
Then I would take as another non-technical challenge organizational structure. So traditional organizational departments that exist are quite often can be let's say roadblocks in your cloud journey. I can use one anecdote from one customer visit where the first customer visit was with the head of procurement, who started the discussion with like, whatever you're offering me from that cloud of yours, I want 30% off. So this is, of course, it's in his interest to cut the price because his bonus depends on that, and he gets his 30% up bonus. But this is not the way cloud works, right? Cloud is pay as you go. The prices are transparent. They're on a website listed publicly. Everybody can see it. Giving you 30% off of what? I mean, at the moment you're spending zero. In 6 to 12 months, you might be spending $300. In 3 years, it could be $500,000. But what do you expect? What kind of discount do you expect upfront to get? These are traditional discussions that have been happening between enterprises and software vendors for many years. Now this is changing. Right? That's the that is the organizational structure that needs to change. The strategy is a piece of that as well, like enterprise architecture that is thinking about the overall business application landscape and how that relates to the IT applications. That needs to change.
Yeah.
Right. Then I would say the big thing is about people, right? So skills and everything that goes with it. And what goes with it, that's the career paths and incentives, right? So when you start training people for cloud, their motivation goes up. That's definitely. Their ambition goes up. You start investing into that person, which is great. But that person at some stage will either shine in your environment because he will be able to adopt all this hot new technology into an environment where he works. So you need to create this environment for him to thrive, or he will leave. You will create a very valuable asset. You will invest into that asset, and then he will go to another company. So you need to prepare the career paths and incentives accordingly for these people to stay and grow inside your company.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can understand that. And of course, now going back to the role as the CEO here, and we didn't yet start, and we didn't yet use cloud and these technologies. So obviously we have that gap to catch up across the whole organization, if I understand you correctly. And we have the goal then to become this attractive workplace as well, so that people want to work here, if I understand you correctly. So
yes.
The question would be also to connect back to this support from top management that you mentioned. This is also in my experience. I know that if you want to do especially big things, that's where it starts. Otherwise, something's going to come in the way. And it's driven by business. So where would I start to at least, educate myself and my management team? And how would that drill down then into how do you, close the gap of the skills?
Yes. So there are several levels of education, right? So for technical people, I think that is very clearly defined. So I think, let's say if we talk about AWS in particular, in the cloud, there is certification paths that people can take, and that leads them very nicely into the AWS technology from a higher level to very deep. You start with something called Cloud Practitioner that teaches you the basic terms and methodology that is in AWS. Then you can go to something that's called associate level certifications, where you have solution architect, developer, system operator, depending on where your focus is. Then there is a much deeper level called a solution architect professional level or DevOps engineer professional level. And then you have a whole set of specialty paths, learning paths for databases, for machine learning, for big data, for security, for networking, also depending where you are. So your internal IT team, the way they are structured right now, for them it will be very easy to find where they belong and what is the path they should take.
Yeah.
For you as a CEO, as a business, it's a little bit more difficult because IT territory is not something where you can go deep. You don't have time, and it's not your focus. You need to run the whole company. But still, I would recommend a few very good resources. Like there are 2 books that I recommend to everybody to read. One is written by Stephen Orban, who is in AWS head of enterprise strategy, or was. Now he wrote a book called Ahead in the Cloud, which is the best practices for navigating the future of enterprise IT.
Yeah, we'll add it in the description, the links.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And the second one is from Gregor Hope, who is also now part of AWS. You probably remember him. He wrote Enterprise Integration Patterns. He wrote a book called Cloud Strategy, and it's a decision-based approach to successful cloud migration. So those 2 books are very good for C-level executives to read and understand and get a bit of upper hand in discussions with IT technology people when we discuss cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes sense, and it's also one of the main reasons we do this. Just to repeat that, is that we do see that that's a big gap in terms of bringing people together, because people make the difference, and people do the work in the end, and that's what we do as humans. And it's about teamwork, and cloud is just one of these platforms where you can do collaboration and teamwork, and that's why you need everybody there. And in the end, everything's coming from the business perspective. The business is the driver. It's not like we do things just because we want to do a technical cool thing. It's actually, we do it because of, as we know, business agility and being competitive and create value. We do these things, and that's why we're looking at cloud, because it's an important platform to be on. And that's why we have this this channel here, and want to start a dialogue exactly on that common ground where we can understand each other.
Yes.
And that the decision makers that represent the business and the product or service, that they understand what it means, these technical aspects, concepts, details, so that you can have a meaningful conversation. And also so that obviously the tech guys don't go off and do the holy grail that they want to do just because.
Yeah. So you asked about the resources beside these 2 books.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you as a CEO of this company.
Right.
Tommy and I are also doing a C-level introduction into the cloud workshops that are on site and very tailored, so for different industries, and with specific focus that we can get you into this world in a gentle way, but also to get the full end-to-end view of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, exactly, and that would be very, very valuable, and also what we're doing since years, not just in cloud for myself, it's also blockchain, because everything is means to an end. And again, it's sitting down with the people that need to make the decisions ultimately, and to understand, okay, is it left or right, or how is it going to look? So what would it look like if we would do that with somebody? It's basically part education, but it's very hands-on, understanding the business and educating on the fly, basically. Being very hands-on on even suggestions, or saying,
opinionated.
What works, best practices, what have we seen, what have we done, because we have been doing a lot of stuff. So that's really what we would bring to the table. It's like, one whole day, lock the door, look at your business, and look at what would that look like in the cloud. What's the gap? Like a mini journey map out, kind of. I guess.
Yes, exactly.
That's how we could explain it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now we've been talking about these. I think a lot of these non-technical, and it's also probably the big piece in an enterprise setting. This is the big piece. So what about the technical, and how do you see the sizing of these pieces?
So definitely technical part is much easier to discuss. Right? The cloud is there, has been there for 15 years. Millions of customers are using it. It's proven. It works. That's not an issue. These non-technical problems are way bigger than technical issues. But let's say we have fixed the non-technical stuff.
Yeah, park that now.
We park that now. And let's say we talk about now technical stuff. So whenever we talk about cloud journey, the first point I would discuss with companies would be, do you have application inventory? And is your application inventory in order? What I mean by that, do you have a list of what applications are business critical in your company and what are not? What hold critical data and whatnot? Then what is the dependency between the applications? Do we have a very defined owners of each of these applications? Are they known? Do we have teams that are supporting and maintaining and further developing the applications?
Yeah. Maybe in-house
are they all off the shelf and so on. So if you have this kind of application inventory, that is the starting point. Looking at this inventory, there are several decisions to be made to which path to go into the cloud.
Maybe just to quickly clarify so it's clear. So basically now it's me and my company here. We are not in cloud. We have a lot of IT, and let's say for the moment we have this list of basically the whole inventory, the whole list of all the applications that we have, all the IT, and we also understand more detail what you said. Now the goal would be to move everything into the cloud. Ideally, if I understand it, I can snap my fingers and everything's in the cloud, and we're there. Now, in order to do that or understand how that looks, that's I guess the next thing what would come after you understand it and you know what the ideal holy grail goal would be.
Yeah.
Now we need to understand how to do it.
So that's the thing. Those are the decisions that need to be made, because you wouldn't need to lift and shift everything, right? There are a set of applications that can be retired. So it means the application that is reaching the end of life, you don't have a need for it anymore, and you don't intend to, let's say, continue developing or purchase or something that replaces it. It retires. Yeah. So those applications
we just cut off. So we get less.
Yes.
Shorter list.
Exactly. Then you have another set of applications that you want to retain. By retaining, it means you keep them for a little while, for a little longer, but you don't do anything about it. They're gonna get into the retire bucket, but it takes a little bit more time. You still need that applications for a certain period of time.
So most likely this is then on-premise, wherever they are, we just forget it. So again, cut off the list. We have a smaller list.
That one, yes. Yeah. Get to the smaller one, right? Yeah. Then we are talking about a lift and shift approach of the applications that should be rehosted. What it means rehosted? Well, don't change anything. It was on this server in your data center. Now you move it to a virtual machine.
Copy paste, basically.
Literally copy paste. Yeah. Do you get any of the cloud benefits? Not really. I mean, you're in the cloud, but you are still inside the same application. If it was a monolith there, it is a monolith here as well. You haven't done anything, but you moved it into the cloud, let's say.
Maybe just to add a few points there, I think just so it's clear why this is an important thing. It's to minimize risks, basically, to break something, but at the same time get into the right direction. So the direction is be in the cloud.
Exactly. So that would be like a lift and shift. There is another then set of applications that I would call lift and reshape. So those are the applications that you would like to replatform. So the application code and the core of the application still stays the same, But let's say it was running on Windows, I don't know, 2003 or whatever the old version is. Now you need, it's end of life, end of support. Now you need to re-platform it into something that is still supported.
Yeah.
Right. And that is one way to do it. So you move it into the cloud and put on a newer platform. Doesn't need to be operating system. It could be also like a application server or a web server, newer version of it, newer version of application libraries,
maybe
and dependencies.
database.
Maybe a database, exactly. And a cloud in general, in my view, is a great way to prevent having legacy. So once you're in the cloud, you won't have legacy. Let's say it like that. If you're using managed services, so there's a big if here, right? If you're still operating your application inventory in the lift and shift manner, so on the set of virtual machines, as I said, you're not getting much out of it. You can still have very old versions of certain software tools,
like WordPress could be one, or
or
a database.
It's a problem because old versions have bugs, can be well-known exploitable vulnerabilities that hackers or ransomwares can use.
Yes.
I have example there as well where one customer was using Jira for project management version 7. So version 7 is the old version, known that it has certain vulnerabilities. There's also like a public list of all Jira 7 installations in the world. So if you have that, somebody can use that vulnerability to enter your system and take over the control.
Yeah, this is just a side note here. This is such an important topic we will be coming back to over and over, and for sure have own episodes around security and these things, because what he just said, what does it mean? It's basically anybody can basically download a piece of software that inputs the list of known targets that are having these bugs, and then they can just press a button. That person doesn't need to know anything, and then you can get ownership of these machines or these systems. And that's obviously what we're seeing on a global scale with all the ransomware that you mentioned and all this. There are so incredibly many systems in place everywhere globally, and it's such a big problem to maintain it. The what you said, let's say the lower level where we let's call legacy or out of date systems, patching it, operating system, the base systems. And obviously, like you say, it's with cloud you can minimize that very much, because you would be buying a service from, let's say, AWS, or could be Google, or can be Microsoft, and they're maintaining that baseline.
Yes.
With some of the best engineers in the world that are experts on security, so they take the responsibility there,
and they're forcing you to always be almost on the latest version.
Yes.
So if you're using one of those managed services, let's say managed database, what is coming as an offering from cloud vendors is the latest version of that database and maybe 3-4 previous versions, but not 10 previous versions.
Yeah, exactly.
So as the new version is coming up and they're supporting it, they're gonna be rolling out of support the oldest version. Will force you to upgrade as well. I have, for example, some of my Lambda functions for my projects, couple of years old, written on Node 8 version, and then I got email from AWS saying that Node 8 is going to be in 6 months out of support. Lambda functions that are running Node 8 need to upgrade to the Node 10, for example. So it keeps your application team on toes all the time, and forcing them to upgrade, which is great for your company at the end, because you are not ending up with some legacy software that nobody can maintain
All
anymore.
doors and windows are open, so anybody can enter your building.
Yes, exactly.
It's exactly like that, and I'm sure the misconception here is that all of a sudden you have this new job and headache and annoyance to update stuff. I'm sure that's, you know, maybe even how some of you understand it, but it's really the opposite what you say, where you are anyway forced to do this, even if you wouldn't be in the cloud. But maybe most don't do it because you can cheat or you can forget it. And that means you're a target, and that's why we have ransomware so easy. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about retiring, retaining, lift and shift, lift and replatform. There is one called drop and shop. So it means
Cool name.
It means you're repurchasing.
Yeah.
So let's say you have been using a software tool that was developed 20 years ago, and you installed it in your data center and you have been using it. Now when you're making cloud journey, first you need to take a look if that solution already exists as a software as a service, for example, off-the-shelf product that you don't have to install and maintain yourself, but you can use it as a service. You pay monthly fee to that company, and but that company is making sure that it is properly scaling, that is properly available, that performance is good, and generally giving you the
a more valuable service, basically.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, I think that's also just to add a point here, I think that's a really important insight for everybody to realize that for any business, you want to minimize your headache and work effort to maintain software or systems, or maybe, you know, your building or whatever it is that you need in order to do what you do best as a business. Everything else should be there for you. It's like, you know, the way I usually think about it is that imagine, you know, a football team and you have the players. Obviously the players are not going to cut the grass and, you know, fill the water bottles and, you know, think about buying new bottles and all this stuff. So they play, that's what they do, and they train for the playing, and then they go and play somewhere. That's their job, and that's like thinking about a business. It's the team there, and they play football. So what's football? What's part of that game? And everything else is this other stuff. And this, I think, is the key here, insight in terms of...
I'm from IT, I don't understand that analogy.
yeah, absolutely.
We don't like sport.
It's the balance there to not get basically IT to want to reinvent all the wheels and do all the fun stuff just because you can. It's about getting the focus on what you should be doing excellent as the team, because the other stuff you can buy.
Yes. So typical example of repurchasing software would be like data warehouse solutions.
Do you have an idea which one? Example?
Yeah, sure. So for SAP toolset, SAP BI, that every company has on-premise, probably is now offered the software as a service. Snowflake, for example, Snowflake, very popular data warehouse software as a service. You can get it from AWS or Azure or Google, being hosted there. It is important to look at these tools because, as I said, lowers the maintenance on your side. There are a bit of, when you're looking at these tools, there are a bit of technical angle to look as well. Let's say if you're in AWS in a certain region, let's say in Frankfurt, for example, you need to make sure that that software tool, Snowflake, for example, can also be used as from AWS. Why? Because you can link your environment and their environment through something called private link, for example, where you're using internal AWS network to transfer the data. It increases performance, it increases security, lowers the cost, and this is the reason why to look at a bit more in depth of these tools when you start thinking about them.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's really a bonus. Like if you have these. So Amazon and AWS is obviously very big and has big customers, like a Snowflake. I mean, it's a startup still. You know, you can even say they just had an IPO.
Okay.
But they are, you know, huge in terms of AWS usage and projection.
Yeah.
So if they're in AWS and you're in AWS, there's this extra benefit. Unless you would be in Azure, you would not be on the same backbone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
There is always a point of how do you migrate your data.
Yeah.
Well, migrating applications is one thing, migrating data is another thing. Usually migrating data is much bigger endeavor into the cloud, but there are tools there as well.
Yeah, no, I've heard, you know, and of course I know about these things, you know, and they're cool tools, and I think everybody who hears about it the first time thinks it's pretty you know, tough. So maybe you want to introduce the Snow family.
Yeah, so if we talk specifically about AWS, then there is like a truck that you can rent from AWS. It's called, the service is called Snowmobile.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome. It looks like a huge truck with a big trailer that parks in your data center. Then you have these big cables you attach to it. It can move 100 petabytes of data at once, right? So once you load it, it's all encrypted. It goes back to the region, unloads the data there, and you have it all in your account. I mean, just think about moving 100 petabytes of data over internet link. It would take years to do it.
Maybe, yeah. I remember you told me once somebody commenting on some data, they thought they had a lot of data, and not to kind of make fun of that, but it's such in a, how should I say, a perspective, or it puts the cloud in a, when you understand how big cloud is in general, and AWS is a big part of the entire public cloud. And I remember you told me once there was this client who said, but we have something like, and I've heard it from a good friend of mine as well, like, but we have so much data. And then they, how much data do you have? And then it was something like, you know, it's less than what AWS ingests daily, something like this. So it's not a problem. We just send, you know, like half a car or something of these, right?
Small pickup.
Small pickup. Exactly. And finally, the last one is the Holy Grail, I guess.
Holy Grail of cloud, and that is when you refactor your application or re-architect.
So maybe just quickly, so we're in the context of me now having this again, the big, you know, legacy IT system in my corporate. So obviously I need to bring my legacy systems into the perfect solution, which is what would we call the perfect solution basically in cloud?
Perfect solution. I would say...
or what do you want to become?
What do you want? Maybe in one of the next episodes we can talk the whole episode about the perfect cloud, let's say, solution. But I would say solution that is using cloud native services, managed services, serverless services,
microservices.
Where you structure your application to have a loosely coupled microservices. Where if we think about typical 3-layer application, many of the application components you can take it out and use managed services for the. For example, database can be a managed service. Database cache can be a managed service. Connection pooling is a managed service as well. Load balancer, application servers, queues, notification services, event buses, messaging. All of those are offered as a little Lego blocks from AWS as a managed service, and you should use those, right? And this is the way to develop a highly available, highly scalable, highly reliable and performant application where you can go from 1 user to billion users without thinking about the infrastructure. Right? That scales for you.
Yes.
All you think about is your code, your business logic that you want to do. You throw it over there, and cloud vendor takes over the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Nemanja said, we will look at this, I think, in the next episode, dig deeper. That's something I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, working on this. You have also a lot of experience, and it's like the thing where anybody who is doing the cloud journey from a corporate and legacy standpoint should know what they're targeting. Like if they could just snap the fingers, what would it look like? And that's very interesting and gives the perspective and the contrast to really understand and appreciate why you're doing this and what it connects back to, again, the business agility and other topics. And obviously all this Lego blocks that Nemanja mentioned, I would have a lot of, let's put the CEO hat again, or maybe the CTO hat in the corporate. I would just say, what about lock-in and what about this? And sure. That it opens up many other boxes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even though this is, we're talking in the context of enterprise applications and landscapes where there's a lot of legacy, lots of monoliths that need to be re-architected and refactored to go into the cloud native. If we talk about startup companies, for them it's almost like a no-brainer. This is the starting point. They don't have the burden of technical depth and legacy systems. They start from that line where it's cloud native 100% from day one.
Yeah, and also the other side where we started, they don't have much or none of the, I would say, non-technical side, I guess, or at least they would have in the beginning.
But they will grow into that.
Absolutely, they need to plug it in at some point.
Yes, they need processes as well and people, and that's why it is important to look from. No matter the size of the company, you need to look holistically from all these angles and be aware that if you don't have certain depth at the moment or a legacy, you will grow into that. And if you keep it in mind, then you can do it in a controlled way.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many tangents we could go off into, and we will in future episodes. And, just to mention, obviously, the cloud journey from a corporate standpoint, or just adopting the no-brainer approach as a startup greenfield project, they connect in the future where you have this, let's say, best possible cloud native usage, or how it looks like when you really use cloud to the full potential. And that means you are, with all the other pieces that part of this non-technical people and all that organizational, you become this very agile beast that is very competitive.
Yes.
And you can move very fast. And these are really interesting things. And just the last comment on that, some of my favorite companies and also some of the biggest and most famous brands in the world, it's Apple, Amazon itself, and it's Tesla. These are all small startups, a collection of startups. Yes. The mentality is this agile, very, very, small teams that collaborate, highly use technology.
Lots of mushrooms independently growing.
Absolutely. And this is really the thing that makes me really excited. I know it makes you excited to talk about. And then in the context of now coming back to cloud and the tooling and bringing the business into that setup. Yeah.
So, So we spoke about these two angles, like non-technical and technical, right?
Yes.
What I wanted to add is that it can be also structured, right? And in AWS, for example, there is something called Cloud Adoption Framework, which is a structured way of looking at these different, let's say, pillars, right? So non-technical pillar, where we sort of look at business, people, and governance, and also technical one, where there is operations, platform, security. Each of these has a deeper themes behind it, but it gives you a bit of structure how to approach the, let's say, cloud journey way. It's not sort of like a wild west, sort of like you go now and good luck, here's $5, see you in Reno, boy. It is really like sort of a framework that can lead you step by step.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great, obviously, that there is a how should I say, well, obviously framework, but you can't be all over the place, and it's not random how you're doing things. There's a unique case for you that you need to figure out, but you're still within, you have like checklists, I guess, that's what it is. And, like these are the pieces to consider within these different pillars and these different areas. And these are all important in order to be successful, right? And what will be interesting in an upcoming episode, obviously, is to in talking in more detail across all of them in bits and pieces, but also to contrast. I would like to get back to that and hear your experience and my experience coming. How do we see, of course things depend, but like also how to bring a startup further past the startup where they're maybe in growth company, so you start to have more people, so because it gets more in the people. That's the big piece that changes the game.
Yeah.
So the bigger the organization, multi-site, more people and so on, would be interesting, because it's not something I've done, bringing a startup. I've built many things from scratch, organizations, projects and so on, companies, but not past the limit where you need to really start prioritizing the non-technical around organization and business. That doesn't mean I don't care about processes and being lean there, but it adds another whole layer when you get, let's say, past 100 people, or I don't know where it is,
exactly.
50 people, 100 people, 500 people.
Definitely something to address and dig deeper into the next episodes.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, very good. Thanks a lot. There would be a lot more to talk about for sure here. We could talk, forever. So I think to wrap up, we'll put some links in the description. We will share some more resources. There will be more videos coming up. Definitely would like to hear your feedback, what we missed, or maybe not missed, but what would be interesting parts to start to look at. Next, we will look at the startup angle a bit more, or let's say the green field, starting with a clean slate.
Where you will do more talking, I'll
exactly.
more listening.
Yes, absolutely. And what else? I mean, this is now number 2 here. So
let's move to number 3.
Cool. Subscribe, like, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. See you soon. Ciao.
Ciao. Thanks.
Good job, man.
Yeah, it's good. So if this is a relevant topic for your business, just contact us so that we can help you.
If you like what we are doing, please subscribe to our channel and like our videos.
And also you can give us feedback and also suggestions for topics that you would like us to discuss and go into more detail.
In any case, stay tuned and see you soon.